Hey guys, you want to hear a neat trick?
お前はもう死んでる。
Pretty cool, huh? Didn't even move my lip.
How did you do that?
It's a secret.
Good evening, boys and ghouls, or afternoon, or morning, or whatever temporal denotation is appropriate to you. Today's travesty comes from our good friend Matthew. Matt, as I am known to call him, makes games. Did you know that? I certainly didn't until recently. I wasn't entirely aware of what he did with his time. Towerfall gave me my suspicions, but it is only through the endlessly clever titling of his dev studio that I found out what he did. How quaint. I'm not entirely sure what kind of hipster bullshit you need to be neck deep in to think Your Name Makes Games was clever, but I'm also sure I don't actually care. Regardless, your rage beast in chief is at it again with an indie platformer. Who could have possibly guessed? Why, our dearest Necro, a platformer? Well, I never. Any dang way, Celeste comes to us from the minds behind Skytorn and Towerfall, both of which I have never played. It promises to tell the grueling story of a young woman-type thing attempting to scale a poorly named mountain, and her journey through the ruins of a city that attempted to inhabit it. We good? Let's rock. From humble beginnings of a 4-day game jam to the intrepid heights of the Steam store and yes, even a console release or two, Celeste comes in hard and heavy with what can only be described as the most throwaway afterthought of a story mode. If you came to this game's house looking to be regaled and enthralled, you may just want to go knock on someone else's door. Dearth of story established, this game features more side content than Jim Sterling. RPGs, being known for being carried by their wealth of side content aside, say that 10 times fast, platformers generally tend to revel in the main course. No siree, Bob! Good old Matthew decided to throw convention out the window with this one and granted us a 3-ounce steak with a Whole Foods worth of our 2 veg. The more content inclined of you will of course see that as a boon, and indeed I should as well. What's wrong with a high level of bang for your buck, after all? Well, as Abraham Lincoln was once famously quoted as saying, the devil is indeed in the details, and this hooker's corpse ain't gonna fuck itself. The story mode will take even casual enjoyers of platforms roughly 2.5 hours to complete, maybe 3 if you're dark side Phil, each chapter of which is broken down to have its own identity, challenges, and gimmicks therein. Unfortunately for the pacing and difficulty curve of the story, never across its entirety do 2 chapter gimmicks ever meet. Boost Gel will never be seen in conjunction with the stoplight platforms, for example, and the game's final gimmick of making you play with Goose Down to become Madonna's quicker than a ray of light is one of the most egregious mechanics in the game. It's one thing to take moderately paced movement and ask the player to spend the game learning to use it quickly. It's an entirely different kind of fuck you to throw in rapidly moving, sluggishly controlling gimmick in at the end.
Just Oscar quality, just Oscar quality rating of a script there.
Abhorrent, I tell you. An over-reliance on gimmicks to make the story even slightly interesting fails to craft an identity or even an engaging difficulty curve. It's just a slow, steady incline, and the segmentation of said gimmicks kills the story by making the overall difficulty and strategy feel disjointed. And aside from gaining access to post-game content, the post-game content, and yes, even the post-game content, you're really not missing a whole lot by just running through the story as quickly as you can. The actual story of the story mode? It's trash. Dig, if you will, a picture. Young lady has an identity / self-actualization issue, and in order to get a grip on herself decides to do something insanely difficult and out of her basic ability. She meets a person or two along the way, and of course one is a hipster sack of shit who thinks having a phone with Instagram on it is all you need to be a photographer. That, dev name is starting to make sense. Anywho, along the way she encounters the physical embodiment of all her worst traits, and has to learn to accept who that person is, and works with her said recolor OC do not steal to conquer the mountain. And if I say any more, every 15-year-old girl with a Tumblr page will have to litigate. Where'd you come up with that little story, Matty boy? Your sister's DeviantArt page? But let's not get too judgmental right off the bat. After all, completely stupid stories are the soup du jour of some of the best games. I mean, for fuck's sakes, one of my favorite game stories is Dad got drunk, killed a bunch of planets and stars, now I gotta roll up trash to make new ones. So bad story can be excused, even made good when told well. But this is a platformer, so options are limited. Most platformers will try to keep storytelling short or through gameplay. Celeste Molesty opts to give me lengthy text dumps and opening chapter 6, with a scene so long I wanted to kill myself. Dear indie devs, chances are high that if you are making a platformer, whatever story you have planned for it that you can't tell through gameplay is not worth telling. Sitting me down for 20 minutes and inundating me with constant text that features more ellipses than the 120 chapter manga adaptation of Final Fantasy VIII is not a good way to tell a story. Most importantly, because when you pull me out of the gameplay to hand me an ellipses, you have just stopped the game for the sole purpose of giving me nothing, i.e. intentionally wasting my time. And if you knew time as well as I, you wouldn't dream of wasting it! When Guts turns his head and says nothing, we have a lengthy and well-established inner monologue that helps fill in the panel alongside the painstakingly beautiful art. When Ginger Fucknugget does it, you're creating a void and filling it with your shitty pixel art, all for the purpose of trying to appear deep. And don't think we're done right there, my children! A one or two of you may remember my episode on Slain in which I lament low pixel protagonists on high pixel backgrounds. Well, Matt Yu, home of the Fighting Doormats and friends, decided to go ahead and make this a whole new level of fuckery by having a colored bit of pixels barely resembling human form on a much higher detailed background combined with a much higher resolution illustrations accompanying dialogue and closing each chapter. Pick an art style! Haven't even talked about gameplay yet. It's a platformer with a dash. B-side tapes, post-game, and C-side tapes will make up most of your gameplay, and very rapidly devolves into pixel-perfect and near-frame-perfect movement, which isn't bad. I don't even dislike that. I've got some 95% of all things to do done. But this game handles it very poorly. Pixel-perfect jumps are accompanied by a large hitbox that has some consistency issues. Near-frame-perfect jumps are accompanied by the most poorly designed Mario music block platforms I've ever encountered. And of course, when difficulty gets high and you have to start timing things based on these, everything starts to become very inconsistent. Combine it with a game that loves to shake the screen, thus screwing up your ability to even visualize the jumps or dashes you need to make, and you get a game that I very quickly became addicted to for its gameplay, gimmicks, and environments, but spend most of the time feeling bad to play. And when somebody says I like it, but it just feels bad to play, you done fucked up right there. A game that feels bad is one that is not inherently broken, but one that has such small flaws that are so prominent that the players feel like they're being punished simply for having the audacity to purchase the game. Comparison alert! Fatty's gonna use food to help elaborate. Big surprise! Remember in middle school when you would be having a pizza party and the teacher would have you all vote for what topping you would get? Literally everybody but one kid would vote pepperoni. He wants ham. Well, he lost the vote. And of course, you need to check. Maybe he's allergic to something. Nope, he just wants ham. Well, he lost, so nope! He's gonna be a whiny little bitch about it. Well, if he doesn't want it, then he can just take the pepperoni off. Nope again! Faggot dick has to keep on going. So what does the teacher do? She gets a fucking plain-ass pizza, fuck everybody else, the whole system has been fucked. That's what Celeste is like. I Wanna Be the Guy is a meme, a dead meme at that. When the game goes down that route, it's tired as fuck. When they get inventive and start challenging the player, massive consistency issues start cropping up. When the game is most fun, it is full-on addicting. Even when I'm spending 45 minutes failing a string because the shitty inconsistent mechanic they want me to use causes me to fail on the first jump, I'm still glued to my controller. Identity-wise, the game is flat-out bipolar. Story is laughably easy and short, but side content comes in a wealth that makes Bill Gates look like a scrub, and at an increasing level of difficulty that excavates new layers of hell. Gimmicks and mechanics are fun to play with, but are segmented and throughout the entirety, each will only see very little use. thus eating away at the game's identity. If you want some 8 to 15 hours depending on your skill level of penultimate platforming porn punctuated by pixel perfection, you're going to get your wish. But if that doesn't interest you, and you want to stick to the story, you won't even be getting half of your money's worth. I'm the TheNecroswanson, and you can go fuck yourselves.